Ladies and gentlemen, the AOG Podcast.
It's the AOG Podcast. Thanks for tuning us in. Episode number 8. Making great strides. We've got special guest tonight. Donald Trump going to be on the show in a little bit. So I was posting earlier online. We got connections. And it's good because now the indictment's been pushed off. Unfortunately, I need to start the show off and address another unfortunate incident. Another school shooting. Nashville. I just wish something would be done by now. I don't care what side you're on. Doesn't matter. We should all be fighting for the same thing here. For our kids to be safe. But instead, the government's worried about banning TikTok. You had the CEO, speaking of Congress, Zuzi Chu. He was getting asked the most ridiculous questions. One of the congressmen had asked the CEO of TikTok, does TikTok connect to Wi-Fi? They're doing anything to make TikTok look bad. I used to not be on TikTok. I didn't want to be on because of what I was told. Well, the Chinese own TikTok. They're in your device. They're taking sensitive information. And then I took a step back logically and said to myself, well, wait a minute. Can't they just get this information from any other app? They're actually not going through your phone. That would be illegal. They're not going through your phone. And then I did some more research and I found out that the CEO, Zuzi Chu over at TikTok, the CEO of TikTok, used to be an intern at Facebook. Now, we all know that Meta, Facebook, and Google, not so much Twitter anymore, but Meta, Facebook, Google are in the hands of the U.S. government. They will do anything. They're bought and paid for. We've had information being censored, everything. They don't want TikTok because the truth is getting out about a lot of things. They don't want TikTok because it threatens the censorship that the U.S. government is trying to do. They are actually trying to push a bill through right now called the Restrict Act. I believe this is in the Senate. Senator Mark Warner from Virginia introduced this bill earlier in the month. They are limiting you and me as to what we're allowed to do. Not only does this bill want to ban TikTok, and as Nancy Pelosi once famously said, oh, we need to pass the bill to know what's in it. Well, you know what? A bunch of people actually are reading the bills, Nancy. This bill allows the government to access your home security cameras. It allows the government, or it disallows you, it bans us from using VPNs to keep our connections secure and safe. Why is that? What are they trying to do here? To me, it seems like more control. China's not on your phones. China doesn't probably really care much. The data that China wants, they already have. They can get that from any website. They can get that from any app. They don't need TikTok to do that. And I did watch a bunch of that hearing, and I found it very interesting. You could tell that the CEO was very prepared and that he wasn't disturbed by these ridiculous questions. The other thing I want to say is we need term limits. And the reason I say we need term limits is you've got these dinosaurs in Congress asking these dumb questions. Does TikTok connect to Wi-Fi? Is the grass green? What do you mean, does it connect to Wi-Fi? Of course it can. How else does the internet work on your phone? cellular or Wi-Fi. Of course it needs to access Wi-Fi. I've never heard of anything so ridiculous in my entire life. So the breaking news tonight just happened a couple of hours ago, from what I was reading. China and Brazil struck a deal to start trading yen and reals instead of U.S. dollars. Now, I'm not a finance person. It don't sound good to me. I don't really know what's going on there. But that's breaking news tonight. But Janet Yellen said, we spoke about it last week, folks. Janet Yellen said, don't worry, the economy is doing great. The U.S. economy is strong. Maybe over in Ukraine, they have all our money, but certainly not here. Certainly not here. We'll be right back. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. We do have President Trump coming in just a little bit. We'll be right back with some news headlines.
Have you not been wearing a mask or social distancing? Did you recently attend a Trump rally? Then you or someone close to you is probably laying down. Hi, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor and CEO of MyPillow. No one should underestimate the value of a good rest. And I should know. When I was addicted to crack, passed out on a deserted street during a bender in Mexico, I realized this curb's doing zero favors for my neck. Then after talking directly to God and not myself, MyPillow was born. Years later, after a settlement for deceptive ads and an F from the Better Business Bureau, I'm a multimillionaire. How? Because America! There's no problem that a pillow can't solve. Freebasing in an alley? You're gonna want my pillow. A woman wants to choose what she can do with her own body? That's gonna need a pillow. Wife left you in an ugly divorce? Use about 8 pillows. And if you vote Trump come November, you can get 2 of my pillows for the price of 2 of my pillows. Call my new number now.
That's always my my favorite one. Mike Lindell there with MyPillow. So Governor Hochul and Democrats in New York are proposing a 4% tax to fund the MTA, which the governor oversees. This 4% tax is going to affect all New Yorkers who use Uber or Netflix. So if you have Netflix, and I mean, we're talking cents, $1, 50 cents, not even, right? We're talking cents here, but that's not the point. Why do we have to keep funding New York State's budget issues, the MTA's budget issues? Why do we have to bail them out? Isn't that the job of the elected officials? Isn't that the job of the government to do? I'm a little confused about that. I'm not quite sure why we need to fund this. I'm really not sure why. But with that being said, I think it's interesting that it's Uber and Netflix. Is that because these are the 2 most used things, right, that New Yorkers are using? It just absolutely makes no sense to me. But it's once again something else that Governor Hochul is trying to do to get into our pockets, to reach into the pockets of hardworking New Yorkers because they need money. They need money. They need to fund something, and it's not working the way it is. And in this case, it's the MTA, which we know the money is not spent the proper way. We know this. This isn't news, right? This isn't news to us. This is something that the government, the governor in New York has been doing, raising taxes. It'll only get so far. Only going to get you so far. With that being said, we have more going on here. Speaking of taxes, there was a hearing the other day with Secretary Janet Yellen. We were talking about this last week a bit, but Senator Kennedy asked Secretary Yellen if Biden's proposed budget included new taxes. So they went back and forth. They had a little bit of a spat. It includes 4.7 trillion in new taxes. So he said, does it include that? And she said, yes, it is a significant amount of new taxes. So next year's budget goes up by 500 billion, if I'm understanding this correct. So let me do some math here. So according to the IRS, now the reason I did some math here is Biden said he wouldn't raise taxes on anyone making under 400,000. So according to the IRS, I did some research. $400,000 or more in annual household income represented America's top 1.8% of income earners. So per the IRS, there were 154 million tax returns filed in 2019. So that's about 2.8 million people earning over $400,000. So if Biden won't raise taxes, if you earn less than that, that means 2.8 million people and businesses, if you just do some quick math, are going to pay about 1.5 million more each to make up for the 4.7 trillion in new taxes. That doesn't make any sense. What are we funding? Why is the budget so high? And why do we need all these new taxes? You know, tax used to be temporary, right? It was for the war. Gas taxes were supposed to be temporary. This is years ago. This is going back years ago, before you and me. Something else that doesn't make any sense to me. The TSA is now in the science business. I'm curious what you guys think. They're saying peanut butter is now a liquid. How is that even possible? Isn't it a solid? I was never very good in science class. Right? Isn't peanut butter a solid? But anyway, the TSA is now considering it a liquid, so you're not going to be able to bring peanut butter over whatever the 3.7 fluid ounces, or whatever their rule is, onto an airplane. A Department of Transportation whistleblower revealed that the Biden administration actually put a hold on automatic inspection systems, which could have prevented the East Palestine, Ohio train disaster, that derailment with the toxic chemicals. They put a hold on the automatic inspection system because it would have taken away from union jobs. That is the one thing I will say about Trump. He never cared who he aggravated. He never cared who he rubbed the wrong way. He wasn't bought by anyone. All these other politicians, Republicans, Democrats, Green Party, Tea Party, Independent, whoever you are, they're all bought and paid for. There's no doubt about that. So this just goes to show that we've got some interesting things going on in our government. And we, you and me, no matter what side you're on, put that to the side, no pun intended. We need to do a better job of reading and understanding and getting our information about what's going on with our money, with the people we elect, with the people running the country. We'll be right back. We got a couple of news stories, and we're going to check in. We have President Trump coming on in just a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Airing of Grievances podcast.
It's the AOG Podcast with your host, AJ. We are so glad to be joined tonight by none other than the 45th President of the United States, President Donald Trump. How you doing, President Trump?
It's great to be with you. I'm doing fantastic. I'm being persecuted very strongly, but that's okay because we're going to get through it. And we're going to get through it so strongly. And really, it's great to be all my people that are telling me AOG, right? The podcast. They can't believe it. They say, if you look at the numbers, they're doing so well. They're blowing up the young people. Barron, they say they're blowing up all over the place. So quite frankly, it's great to be with you, and it's going to be a great show, okay? Believe me.
And I appreciate you joining us tonight. Now that you're a private citizen, you know, you've been very big in the financial world and business world before you became president. What are your thoughts on the whole bank collapse with Silicon Valley Bank?
Well, if you look at the banks, if you look at what's happening, it's such a disgrace. And if you looked when I was in office for 4 years, and it was 4 great years for the banks, and whether it's Chase or the banks in California that are failing very strongly, and all the banks, Bank of America, all the bank. Okay, we call it all the banks. They were doing so good, but now you've got a sleeping. I call it the Benadryl administration. And because of the policies, and you got the VP, right? The VP.
She
They
doesn't
call
know.
it.
She doesn't know if she's going left or right.
They call her Kamala. They say she can't answer a question. They say, "What do you think of the situation with the banks?"
She loves her
She
Venn
starts like,
diagrams.
it's such a disgrace. And look, I'm no fan of Mike Pence. Okay, we got along, but now if you haven't heard, look it up. You can Google it. He's living in a tent in Austin, Texas. The guy went against Trump. I call him Mike Judas Pence, right? Although I respect Judas more because he sold Jesus out for some coin, some money. Mike sold me out for nothing. So, but back to Kamala, it's such a disgrace. And so, really, if you look at the banks, it's really because I blame it on sleepy Joe Biden. Okay.
Speaking of Sleepy Joe, what do you rate him? What do you think he's doing? How's he doing as president?
Well, look, when it comes to ratings, it's always been rate stars or rate like 1 out of 5 stars,
Yeah.
or you could say, A plus, B minus, F, right? But quite frankly, I think with this Sleepy Joe, there's no scale. He broke the scale. He broke the scale. So really, I would just say disgrace. That's all I could say. Just such a disgrace. Okay, because you can't give him a letter. He destroyed letters. He destroyed
But he
numbers.
he can't even get through a sentence.
It's look. Joe doesn't even know he's alive. Okay, he doesn't even know he's alive. And I mean, you'd think a dead person, they'd have a person like the VP, somebody that's slightly cognizant, but Kamala, she doesn't know what the hell's going on. It's such a horror, such a horror. But we need to
It's
take back our country, and that's what we're doing. Okay.
it's a disgrace what they're doing. It's a disgrace what we have to deal with. You really did a lot of great things for us, President Trump, and we thank you for that. One of the greatest things I think you probably ever did was really put people in their place, right? Really tell them, hey, here's what's going on. And you did it so impeccably well with a lot of nicknames. What are some of your favorite nicknames that you've come up over the years for some of the folks in Washington?
Well, of course, you've got the classics. You've got Crooked Hillary, and if you actually look at Hillary, she doesn't stand up straight. She actually is physically crooked. So really, it's not just metaphorical, it's actually quite literal. Okay. And you've got a lot of people. You've got crying Chuck. He gets out there with the crocodile tears. We call it crocodile tears. They're not real. He's showboating. They call it showboating, and a lot of fakeness. We call it inauthenticity, right? Inauthenticity. And so I like crying Chuck. And but Crooked Hillary, crying Chuck, and perhaps I like Pocahontas.
I
you got
think that's an all-time fan favorite for
absolute
everyone.
Pocahontas, and you remember I was in the White House, and I was giving some Native American people, and these are great people. Okay, they're Native people. They know how to build a canoe. Okay, wonderful. They know all about the feathers and all that. Okay, wonderful things. And I was giving them an award for being wonderful warriors. And I said, there's another Native Indian. We call her Pocahontas. And it was jokes. See, they laughed. They laughed, but really it's very serious when somebody pretends to be something they're not. Okay, it's not good. It's not good because let's say if I was an Indian and I'm on the reservation and I'm doing reservation things, and then I see this woman on television and she's parading around, not good. Okay, so really I would say Pocahontas is probably.
I think that's a fan favorite. My personal favorite is Low Energy Jeb.
Low energy Jeb, right? And that's my new nickname for our country. I call America is Jeb. America's gem! Exclamation point! Right?
The exclamation point at the end.
The famous exclamation point. And I remember he said, "I kept my brother, right there was a real beauty. There was another beauty, George, Curious George." He said, "My brother kept our country safe." I said, I watched the World Trade Center come tumbling down under your brother's reign. So really, it's excuse me, what of a joke from 3 weeks ago. I started to laugh. It's such a disgrace, low energy, and our country needs energy. Okay?
We do need energy, and we're definitely getting some of that energy tonight from you.
Yes.
Of course, this is the AOG podcast, the airing of grievances. Real quickly, President Trump, what are some grievances you have to air for us tonight?
Well, firstly, I would say all the fake investigations, all the fake, they call it Russia, Russia, Russia. I came in there and I tell people I had to be president, but I also had to fight. I was fighting to survive. These people, your average person, like your average normie, I call them normies, right? Or NPC, non-player character. Like you got a guy like DeSantis, and he comes out, oh, he's so nice. Oh, DeSantis is he's not nice. He's not a fighter. He's not a fighter. He would have crumbled under pressure. You'd see him. I'm so sorry. I colluded because he's not a fighter, and he would have admitted. And a lot of people, you don't know this. A lot of people, you watch Law and Order, right? SVU, people admit to crimes they didn't commit all the time because they threaten them. We're going to throw your grandma in jail. Sign here, you did a crime. The American people, they need a fighter. And DeSantis, I call him Ron DeSanctimonious, okay? Look into it. He's not doing good, and he wouldn't be a fighter. So I would say my biggest grievance is with the agencies, whether it's intelligence, you got the Central Intelligence and Federal Bureau of Investigation, and those are the ones you know. There's a lot of three-letter agencies that you people don't even know about, okay? We've got people looking into aliens. You could call it Men in Black. You could call it whatever you want, but they're doing things, and there's people all over the place. And so I would say the persecution, I've been treated so unfairly.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump, everyone. Woo! This is Jason Scoop. You can check him out on Instagram at Jason Scoop or on TikTok and YouTube, Jason Scoop Comedy. Jason, tell us a little bit about how you got started and a little bit more about your comedy.
So basically, I was doing impressions since like the third grade. I started watching Daryl Hammond on SNL, and he would do like Bill Clinton and Regis Philbin and all the people. And I went to school and I started to do it. And then when I graduated, I started to do stand-up, and I did stand-up for years and years and years and years. And it was cool. And I did some TV things. I did a pilot with Wanda Sykes. I got in. Dana Carvey had an impersonation contest show called Dana Carvey's First Impressions. I got on there.
Awesome.
I won $10,000. I beat Melissa Villasenor, who went on to get SNL a month later.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel like I've caught my stride. Once the pandemic started, I started to fool around with TikTok, and then that just blew up. And then I started being more active on Instagram. And then this year, actually end of last year, I started the Donald J. Trump podcast, where I host a podcast every week on YouTube where I play Donald Trump. And I just keep building from there. So
that's awesome. It's so great to see your success, and spot on impersonations, by the way. So ladies and gentlemen, go check him out. Like I said, on Instagram, Jason Scoop, or on TikTok and YouTube at Jason Scoop Comedy. Jason, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks. We'll see you soon. So Donald Trump has been in the news a lot, and that was just great that we were able to have him on. I didn't want to touch on this, but we're going to talk about it now. You have Governor Cuomo now blasting Alvin Bragg in the whole Trump Stormy Daniels campaign contribution thing. So Alvin Bragg, Manhattan DA, who I think is useless, by the way. Listen, what Trump did is wrong. There's no excuse. But why is he in trouble for it? Why didn't Clinton get in trouble for it? Why didn't Obama get in trouble for it? Why didn't anyone else get in trouble for it? And they paid a lot more money in hush money, in campaign contribution hush money, than Trump. But you have Alvin Bragg, useless Alvin Bragg, going after Trump. You have Letitia James in New York going after Trump. You've got Georgia going after Trump. And Cuomo, who really didn't like Trump, is now defending him. He's now standing up for him. Cuomo said the public is cynical about this. You've got Georgia, Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, all going after Donald Trump. That's a big coincidence. Alvin Bragg took a misdemeanor and upgraded it to a felony. But for normal citizens of New York, he takes felonies and downgrades them to misdemeanors. That makes no sense. I don't understand that at all. How do you take a misdemeanor and bump it up to a felony because you don't like someone? And you take all the felonies and you downgrade them to misdemeanors? This is what you voted in, New York City. This is what you voted in. This is what you need to deal with. Not only did Cuomo blast Alvin Bragg and defend Trump, he also criticized Joe Biden. I'm shocked. Andrew Cuomo, disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo, criticized Joe Biden about the border and how he opened it up and it's wide open and there's no plan. Cuomo is actually suggesting that Mayor Adams in New York City should bus all of these illegal migrants, bus them up to Albany. Maybe Hochul will wake up. Hey, Kathy, more tax revenue. I mean, why do we have to pay 4% to fund the MTA? Make all these people citizens, and let's go. Let's do this. What am I missing? Last but not least, our last story of the night. Sorry, it's got to do with Trump again. This is a good one. This is a funny one. Chris Christie was telling a New Hampshire crowd he's the only one that can topple Trump. I kid you not, those are his words. And then I took one look at him and I went, oh yeah, he could topple Trump. Now, Trump's a big dude. But Chris Christie's a little bit bigger. That's not how he meant it. Poor choice of words, Chris. But yeah, so that's all we've got for you tonight. Hope you enjoyed that President Trump interview. Once again, check out Jason Scoop. He's awesome. Jason Scoop Comedy on TikTok and YouTube. And Jason Scoop, just like Scoop, like a scoop of ice cream. Jason Scoop on Instagram. Make sure you check him out, guys. We'll see you next week. The AOG Podcast. See ya.
Ladies and gentlemen,